Welcome to today's policing training. I'm your host, Awesome Joe Jaws. Assisting me today is going to be Unask, Yeet and Elite Man, also known as Alaska, Cloud, and then Brandon is obviously here just dancing, doing absolutely nothing.
Typical.
Exactly, typical, yes. So we're going to be covering quite a bit of things today. So the first topic we're going to be covering is game regulations. So that's going to be including in-game rules and serious roleplay rules and whatever. Next is use of force. Then after that, we'll be going over how to properly handle primary and secondary checkpoints. Then after that, we're going on to jurisdiction, where you're allowed to go patrol whatever. Then it's going to be on to the roleplay topics. So we're going to go over the legislations in terms of what police powers have and what crimes is which. Stop and search, again, that will come under mixed with laws. Arresting procedures, and then rank, structure, and information. So we're going to go, first off, it's going to be game regulations. So the primary ones you need to remember is tool abuse is not allowed, so that could be covering the use of firearms, and the authorization tool, but it could also include the gates as well. Feral roleplay in terms of SRP, if you're we expect a reasonable amount of roleplay within the VC server and SSU, but the regulations also apply to RP Server 1 and RP Server 2. When you're using the authorized tool, you shouldn't be unauthorizing anyone at any point in time, even removing their secondary mark. This is due to it's highly frowned upon and you would get yourself into trouble for tool abuse. If it was in terms of roleplay, potentially, but there will be a chance that moderation will won't see it at that way as part of roleplay, and they may moderate you for such offence. Behavioural wise, we do enforce disrespectful behaviour, whether that may be within roleplay or outside of roleplay. Please be respectful at all times, because we do not want to be coming down and moderating you for disrespectful behaviour. We've got much more better things to do, really. Those are the main ones you need to be remembering. It's just primarily don't open the gates unless it's either a border personnel or you've questioned someone. If in the event someone comes up has already got a green mark and you're the person asking the questions, you ask the questions again, because you cannot confirm yourself whether that person has been questioned or not already. And hypothetically, if you open that gate for said marked person, you could be technically get done for gate abusing. We'll move on to the use of force stuff now. So we as moderation staff, we do enforce the use of force essentially. So it doesn't just come under the category of serious roleplay, it comes under the game category as well as tool abuse. So say for instance you see a person who's wanted walking down past secondary, trying to bypass it, you shoot them. That you just committed tool abuse right there. We expect you to use non-lethal force unless that person poses an active threat towards either yourself or others around you. So let's say for roleplay terms, you are good patrolling on foot, and then a wanted person drives at you with a vehicle, and then you shoot them with your gun. We would consider that as reasonable use of force, because the vehicle can be used as a weapon, also known as a VAAW, which stands for vehicle as a weapon. So you can hypothetically shoot someone for trying to drive at you so long as they're wanted, because
I mean, it's a 2-ton weapon flying at you. Like,
yeah,
it's just as dangerous as a gun.
basically, yeah. But the difference is it can shatter your bones within seconds.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So that's one of the reasons. In terms of using your handcuffs, you could obviously handcuff people who are wanted, but you could also arrest people for committing roleplay crimes. So, say for instance, unasked was a civilian, and he's been driving dangerously down the road, and you pull him over, get him out of the vehicle, and roleplay the arrest. You could do that because unasked there has committed a roleplay offence, so dangerous driving, which comes under the RTA. And if unasked doesn't follow that arrest, he himself is in violation of fair roleplay rules. So he could get done for not following that arrest. So you guys have the ability to enforce the laws I've stated in the handbooks as part of roleplay, and if they don't, then you've got that. Then you technically have the upper hand and can contact moderators to make them roleplay because they committed a crime in roleplay, and you could roleplay that arrest even when they haven't got their wanted tag on. So that should be primarily done for SRP. We don't enforce that in public servers, but we enforce that for SRP. Just because the game doesn't recognise it doesn't mean it's an offence. For example, a person may be carrying a handgun in public place. That itself is a criminal offence under the Firearms Act. So you could hypothetically arrest them for that offence. It's these simple things that you guys could actually roleplay and arrest do.
My favourite law.
The hand. I've got that in my tabs. I've got that law in my tabs. But it doesn't actually.
It's not a salmon. It's not a salmon.
It's not
a salmon.
It doesn't specify a salmon. It doesn't specify salmon. It only specifies fishes that's suspected to be poached.
Boring.
Yeah, boring. But yeah.
Can you arrest someone for taking meat through the border?
Well, that would likely be more of a customs offence. Realistically, you could hypothetically arrest. You'd have to look into the customs laws. Actually, I'm not very yeah, have a look. I'm not very knowledgeable on the customs laws, only on the criminal side of things. Because it's something like that would be border forces' problem, not really the police's problem. But yeah, just to summarise things, don't open the gates for any reason. Don't random authorise. Don't random authorise. Yada yada yada. You get the gist.
You can't take meat, milk, or products containing them through the Eurotunnel. If you're found to have them, they'll be confiscated according to the Eurotunnel website. I don't think it's a specific offence to take it through.
No, I think that's just company policy, really. So it'll be a civil matter. Yes, when it comes to lane 4, you can remove their unauthorized. We say you need remove their unauthorized or authorization because let's face it, it's going to cause much more problems if they're coming through the main lanes if they're authorized, really, isn't it? It's going to cause issues. Yeah. So if you're operating lane 4, every person that comes through is should be unauthorized. Is the Red Flag Act recognised? I'm not familiar with the Red Flag Act.
All right, let's have a look.
That feels like a military law of some sorts.
Extreme Risk Protection Order. Wait, no, I don't think this is right. Oh, that's the one where it was you had to, if you're driving a car, you had to have someone with a red flag in front of you walking along.
That's not recognised then. No, we're not. That's not recognised. Anything in terms of vehicle related comes under the Road Traffic Act. But the only old law that's primarily enforced is the Offences Against the Person Act, which was made in law in 1885, I think. But yeah, it's all simple dimples. You can find everything in the handbook and SRP doc, which actually needs updating to be fair. SRP doc and main game rules. Everything's all there. It's just plain common sense, isn't it? How to properly handle primary and secondary. Simple dimples, yes indeed. Unasked, you're going to be use as a demonstration. So
Crash the
what?
barriers.
Whilst we wait, I'm just going to quickly explain what Unask's going to demonstrate. Most of you should, and I mean you should, know how to properly operate something like this at this stage. If you don't, then it's going to be a learning curve for you. So what Unask is going to demonstrate is how the checkpoint should be manned and how the questions should be done. But you could also see here, if you aren't aware, there's a notepad inside these booths here where it tells you what type of questions is required to be asked. So it should say reason for travel, illegal items, passengers and identification up on the window here. So Unask is going to demonstrate how it should be properly done.
Hello, sir. Step out of the vehicle, please. Show me your passport. Thank you. Reason for travel?
I'm off to see my grandmother. She's French.
Alright. Any illegal or prohibited items?
Of course not, officer. I follow the law to the letter.
I will see about that. Any passengers?
Nope, just me.
Alright, alright.
I'm very lonely.
Unlucky. Duration of your stay?
Just 2 days.
Alright, alright. Do you have a return ticket?
Yeah,
Perfect. Head to secondary, please, sir.
fine, I guess.
Drive safe.
Didn't even offer me.
You don't need to ask for a return ticket, it's just to see if they're coming back on Eurotunnel or not. Because they could be taking the ferry down to
London, shush.
because the Eurotunnel goes over to Calais, and then Calais has their own port which connects to the Dover. No, it's just for roleplay purposes, realistically. But you don't have to answer it. The main questions you should realistically be asking is passport / identification, any illegal items, where are you going, how long you're staying, leaving for, any firearms, such and such. That's the main ones you should be asking realistically.
See, that was a great demonstration of unreasonable use of force. Unask just pointed his gun at me while I was just sitting here.
Yeah.
Now I'm being silenced.
Secondary isn't necessarily mandatory, realistically. It's all based on the answers they provide. So, say for instance, Alaska's answers is suspicious. You could send them to secondary. If they're not suspicious, then you have the choice of putting them as authorized, and then they'll go down to the authorized lane down there.
I'm filing a complaint against this officer. He's just broken 2 of my lights.
Right, shush now. But yeah, it's not mandatory. If you decide to just say, "Oh, part of the general search policies," you have to go through secondary, or it could just be randomized. So you could just randomly put someone for secondary as a deterrent for any crime that acts as a crime reduction, and all that. So it's completely down to you. But secondary isn't mandatory so long as their answers aren't suspicious.
So if someone is authorized, they can go through the authorized vehicles lane?
Yeah, they could go through the authorized lane. That's what it's designed for. People marked as authorized should go through that authorized lane because it just backs up traffic in secondary. Everyone has this perspective that everyone needs to be searched. That's not the case. It's not a requirement for secondary, although it's encouraged for you to try and have secondary, but it's not really required nowadays. You have no idea how moderation has been trying to tackle this this supposed rule. It's been trying to tackle it for so long now.
So can I mark as authorized here?
Yeah, you can mark it, or you can mark as authorized here should you deem the person not suspicious. But at the end of the day, it's down to your own judgment. So if you deem the person to be suspicious, send them to secondary. If not, send them through the authorised lane. It's your choice at the end of the day. Well, your choice. Again, your choice. If you want to mark them for secondary here, go right for it. But again, it's not required. Again, if we go over to secondary, it's very simplistic. People also have this tend to think that it's required to have these first two gates closed. We don't see it as that, really. It's just used as to manage traffic easily, so you can keep those open. But the gate at the end there, it has to stay closed at all times. If you do just keep it open, then we'll make you close. It will moderate you for the offence of random opening. Again, very simplistic. If an arse jumps out, Alaska, sorry, goes into the scanner. Do they have any illegal items on them? If they do, it'll be popping up as red, and then you go ahead and arrest them for in possession of prohibited items. If not, mark them as authorised, let them through. Simple dimple. I'm sure everyone's done this about a million times.
I didn't realise we had 50 officers. This is where all my tax money's going.
Does everyone have a practice run at running primary and secondary? I'm giving you the option. If you say no, we'll just move on. Right. So, since there's less of you, I think this train is going to be much more quicker now. So the last main part we're going to go over is jurisdiction. So this one is would be very difficult to understand, so make sure you're listening. You have jurisdiction everywhere around the English side of the map. So you have, in terms of jurisdiction, you don't have to sit at the border all the time. You could go patrol down the motorways, patrol the town area. But in terms of the town area, don't stay there for too long, because you're likely going to end up in trouble for spawn camping. If you see a person that comes out of spawn area that's wanted, I politely ask you, do not try to pursue them, because if you do, it's just going to look like spawn camping, isn't it? So I'd say the best option is just to report it on the radio. That's the best option, I'd say, realistically, because if you go after them, if you're in the civilian area, it's just going to be, yeah. Yeah, you could station yourself at the police tower, the police station in spawn area. That's fine. That's perfectly fine by me. Just don't be there for the purpose of catching at criminals, is what I'd say.
Can I wait on the motorway to catch speeders?
Yeah, you could be on the motorway to catch speeders. That you can do. The motorway, you can sit there all you like. We do not care about that. It's when you're in the main spawn area, and you try to catch criminals whilst in there. We take that as camping in some aspects, so we'll then take action for it. In terms of France, Harry has updated how France is, so let me just quickly get that up before I lose it. This lovely Photoshop screenshots he's done always makes me laugh. So in terms of France, you can be there realistically, however there's some certain restrictions. When you first spawn into the France area, if you're standing near the teleporter where it takes you from the platforms to France, you're not allowed to be there. And then you could hypothetically and I'm not joking, you can hypothetically camp at France if it's within the arches near the dealer. That is allowed. This is from the big man himself, so I can't override this. So no, those are the places you could hypothetically camp, but just be warned. Most people still think it's not allowed, so expect a visit from us, just to see what's going on. Okay, but it has been recently updated. I don't think Harry's even clarified it yet, but it has been updated. Is everyone happy with that? Has anyone got any questions? Camping in the back gate not allowed. It's a protected area. If you're camping there, you'll get done first for camping it, because it's unfair for the people trying to break in. So I'll tell you the speed limits for the road area. So where we are at the moment, the border area. So say for instance, it's all the same speed limit. From here to where the ticket booths are, we consider that as a 30 miles per hour area. However, when you go onto the motorway, national speed limits apply, so it's 70 miles per hour. So that's the speed limit for the motorway, and everywhere else is basically 30 miles per hour. Yeah, and we will moderate that. If the consequences of speeding, NHS can have their blues on. I'll answer the speeding part in a minute. NHS can have their blues on, but it's when it's their sirens. It's as if you're not responding to an emergency with your sirens on, it becomes a rule violation. In terms of speeding, if you are doing it without roleplay, it becomes unrealistic driving in the SRP service specifically. But if you're doing it within roleplay, then that's fine. No, it doesn't, unfortunately. I wish that was the case, but no. Hopefully when V2 drops, we'll have more features to include that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Malaska, but it all depends on the department's policy, realistically. It all depends on the policy on how you do blue light runs. You could hypothetically have your reds on for on scene, such as traffic stops and whatnot, but depending on the settings on it can be used for anything. It could be used for...
Basically, with Cambridgeshire's policies, they should be activated if they're just warning or something. So if you're stopped on a road, if you're closing a lane, if you're doing something like that, they should be activated. The only kind of exception to that is if you're they're stationary stop mainly, but if you're doing an escort and you're at the back or something like that, you can have your red lights on, because they're also like a do not pass kind of thing. Because we obviously haven't got matrix boards, which I hope Harry adds for V2, because they're really cool. But yeah, they do have red lights. Obviously, the only lights that will flash on all sides of the car are, well, the front half will have blue and white, and the back half will have only blues, and you can turn on the reds separately. Because you can only display white to the front and red to the back. If you try to display white to the back, it's illegal, even for police. Because if you ever see a white light, you should think that's the front of a car. If you see a red light, you should think it's the back of a car, kind of thing. So
yeah, I would also
police
think
have no extensions over that.
I would also think most of that information would be on the College of Policing's website, anyways, because they would have their own.
But it does.
Yeah, but it all depends on department policies. But those policies have to be aligned with the College of Policing.
Yeah. Anyway, where you're warning someone or saying don't pass red lights, usually.
Yeah. That brings up to another point. I need to talk. I'm going to quickly talk about vehicles as well. So I'm going to quickly go over the vehicle usage of what you do. if you decide to pull someone over, it's best to know the law, what it is. So the law for a constable to stop vehicles is Section 163 of the Road Traffic Act. That allows any constable that is uniformed or is a traffic officer to stop vehicle on roads. That person must legally comply, otherwise they are violating that Section 163 Road Traffic Act offence. That is basically any vehicle. So hypothetically, me as a police officer, if I'm roleplaying as a police officer, I could literally pull over someone from RMP, knowing they're still in an emergency service vehicle, but they don't have their blues and twos on. If I suspect them committing a road traffic offence, I could then stop that vehicle and they can't do anything about it, because if they ignore that, then they're in offence for failure to stop for a police constable. In terms of vehicle using to block off roads, if it's going to be using to block off roads, you will require permission for moderation if it's in terms of roleplay. But I would say, Brandon, I'd say it's reasonable if you block your vehicle in a way to use a tactical contact to stop a fleeing vehicle in a pursuit. I would consider that as fine, because you're using that vehicle to as part of that roleplay essentially. I'd only advise you to do it within the SRP servers, because in public servers it's likely going to be seen the wrong way. But yeah, as so long as you're following game regulations in the use of vehicles, don't leave your sirens on, for the love of God. We'll just delete the vehicle. We know who it is anyways, because us in moderation, we can see what props you place down, who it belongs to, which vehicle belongs to. We have that ability. So if you decide to say, this is not my vehicle, we can see who owns the vehicle. So don't start lying to our faces, because we're just going to have you banned for that. Yeah. So that's fine. So we're going to move on to the next part, which is laws. Buckle in. I'm going to be rambling a lot now. So there's different types of laws for different offences. So I'm going to cover the powers first. So like I said, if you wish to pull someone over, it's Section 163 of the Road Traffic Act. Stop and search laws. You're only focusing on 2 stop and search laws. That is Section 1 of the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, which allows you to search items that are either stolen, used for a crime,
Stolen items, stolen items, objects
used for a crime,
used for a crime, articles made or adapted for theft, or pointed or bladed articles. Stolen items, or something like that. Wait, my god! Now I've got to remember what SOAP stands for. Hold up.
Just leave it for now, mate.
Mate. Offensive weapons. There you go.
Yeah.
That was going to annoy me.
And then you got Section 47 of the Firearms Act, which basically allows you to stop and search for firearms, essentially. So I'm going to move on to the firearms laws. So, in England and Wales, I don't know about Scotland and Northern Ireland and all that, firearms are heavily restrictive, and I mean heavily restrictive. So, the main reasons you could be carrying a firearm, and it has to be a Section 1 firearm, and I'll go into detail about that in a minute, is for leisure purposes, sporting, or hunting. Those are the main 3 reasons you will be carrying a firearm. However, in terms of carrying a firearm, the firearm is required to be locked in a safe case that only yourself can access. If it's in a case where another person that does not possess a firearms license gets access to, then you will be done for neglect of a firearm, whatever the law is, something in the Firearms Act, but you'll be done for that offence. if you carry a firearm as a civilian or whatever it may be, for the purpose of self-defense, you would then be committing an offence itself because it's classified as an offensive weapon, but it also states in the Firearms Act that you could not be holding a firearm for the purpose of self-defense. And that goes for any item realistically. If you're carrying an item, say for a knife, bat, or even a handbag, for the purpose of self-defense, it would automatically classify that as an offensive weapon because you are carrying it with the intent of harming another individual. Do you guys get all that? Well,
if you throw a sausage roll at someone's head in self-defense, then if you're carrying a sausage roll for self-defense, I think you've got bigger things to worry about.
Maybe some of us are. Maybe some of us need that sausage for self-defense.
What, so you can eat it and get energy before beating them up or something? Or
No,
are you
just be
genuinely going to
no.
throw it at them?
Yeah. Just
Oh my
Oof.
god. Yeah, make sure you pull out your wallet really quickly so you don't waste your officer's time.
I'm not going to go into too much detail of roadside offences, but the main offences you need to keep an eye out is for dangerous driving, driving without due care or attention. Dangerous driving could be speeding, the manner of their driving, that could be dangerous to others. But realistically, however a person drives, whether it be dangerously or not, you could technically classify that as driving without due care or attention because it falls below the expected standards of a competent driver. So I don't know about you, Alaska, but I don't really see the point of having driving without due care or attention and dangerous driving. It might as well just be the same offence.
I think they kind of just do it as in, is it exactly dangerous driving? It's more just like a lower level dangerous driving, I think.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't know. I'd probably just use dangerous driving.
No, I'd probably just use dangerous driving. I usually just use both most of the time.
Your poor
because
RSTs are getting charged with everything.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
God.
it all comes down to whether if I think about it, if you arrest someone on suspicion of dangerous driving driving without due care or attention, that helps narrow it down for the CPS to decide whether it's either
True.
dangerous driving or driving without due care or attention. Because at the end of the day, CPS decides
True.
what to do. It's the same with GBH. If every time a person gets arrested for GBH, it's because they may not have enough evidence to prove it's GBA with intent, which is a more hefty offence. So that's why they arrest it for GBH, because they have more evidence to prove of GBH. GBH is basically grievous bodily harm. So because there's you got actual bodily harm, which is ABH, and then you've got grievous bodily harm, which is GBH. Say for instance, unaskably hitting them, that's going to be considered as GBH because it may cause long-term effects or cause serious damage. While something like actual bodily harm, it could be just a case of scratches, bruises, maybe a minor break, something like that. So that's how you categorize it with GBH and ABH. So punching is actual bodily harm because you've got bruises and whatnot and whatever. But if you say like it becomes hitting with a baton, stabbing, gunshot wounds, it's GBH.
Until the point where it becomes attempted murder and things like that.
Yeah, but it's more difficult to prove attempted murder rather than GBH.
True.
Tasers, it's a very tricky one. If you tase someone,
GBH, I think, because it can have long-lasting effects. So I'd say GBH.
if it's unlawfully used, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Because
if it's unlawfully.
If it causes them long-term effects, then they're going to be done for GBH. If it causes them to die from it, then it's manslaughter.
But if it's used legally, I don't think there'd be an issue with it. They just
it would just. I think it'd be a case of the IPC getting involved and internal investigation being conducted.
Don't even. Not
I know.
very smart.
I absolutely hate the IPC sometimes.
Back up. He was literally nowhere close to. Oh, what
Um,
is going on?
I don't know. We're ignoring it though. So, what I'm going to do is just quickly cover arresting powers. So, RMP for roleplay purposes, you have the same powers as a constable. So you have every right to act as a police officer. So the arresting powers for you guys is Section 24 of the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, which allows you to arrest anyone on suspicion of committing a summary or indictable offence. So the difference between summary and indictable offences is if it's a summary offence, so say like I hit Alaska, that would be classed as common battery or common assault. That is considered a summary offence. Basically what that means is it's a minor offence, you could be imprisoned up to 6 months, and it will be handled by the magistrate's court. However, when it comes to indictable offences, that comes into more serious offences such as burglary, attempted murder, GBH, and all that stuff, which is tend to handled by the Crown Court and could give them however sentence they want, and then if it needs to be appealed, it could go up to the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom. Section 24A is basically citizens' arrest, but the law only identifies it as an arrest. So myself as a security license holder, as a door supervisor, we can make arrests. However, it can only be indictable offences. So say for instance, again, attempted murder, burglary, all that stuff, that's serious offences. Anyone around us here, it could be you, it could be Alaska, it could be Cloud, it could be Unasked, it could be anyone here that is not a police constable can arrest for indictable offences. However, it is not encouraged, because if you do not have sufficient evidence of an indictable offence being committed, then you are then at most liable for false imprisonment and attempted kidnapping, because you're taking away that person's liberty and freedom. So what I'm saying is, don't do it unless you absolutely have to. I've been trained in it. I've been trained to know what I can and cannot do by arresting a security. But you generally, as people, civilians, I would highly unadvise it, and I mean highly unadvise it, because if you don't have enough evidence of it, then you are going to be in the shits. Excuse my language, but you're going to be in the shits for with the police for attempted kidnapping and false imprisonment. Let's wrap up with the rank structures for our civilian police and RMP. In public servers, all ranks have equal authority, but in serious roleplay, ranks define your role and chain of command. Here's how they work. For civilian police, it starts with Constable, the frontline officers patrolling streets, making arrests and responding to incidents. They follow orders but make critical decisions. Next is Sergeant, marked by 3 stripes, leading small teams and mentoring newer officers. Then comes Inspector with 2 pips, followed by Chief Inspector with 3, overseeing major operations like crime scenes or pursuits. Above them, Superintendent and Chief Superintendent manage stations or divisions, setting strategies for large-scale incidents. At the top are Assistant Chief Constable, Deputy Chief Constable, and Chief Constable, who lead the entire force and shape major operations. In certain forces, like the Metropolitan Police, higher ranks include Commander, overseeing boroughs or specialist units, Assistant Commissioner, managing major departments, Deputy Commissioner, second in command and Commissioner, the overall leader of the force. Now the Royal Military Police, or RMP, known as Redcaps, who maintain order on military bases. Their ranks follow the British Army structure. You begin as a private, but after training you become a Lance Corporal, handling patrols and investigations. Corporal and Sergeant lead teams, managing military crimes or securing bases. Warrant Officer Class 2 and Class 1 are senior roles, advising commanders and enforcing discipline. RMP officers start as Second Lieutenant, progressing to Lieutenant and Captain, who command platoons. Higher ranks include Major, Lieutenant Colonel, and Colonel, leading larger units. Brigadiers command RMP operations with generals above them, leading the highest levels of the Provost branch for major military operations. Also, border supervisors have limited authority over both police and RMP. They can direct where officers are positioned, who to search or how to manage checkpoint duties, but they cannot control arrests, investigations, or other core policing actions. Respect their role, but their powers are strictly limited. This concludes this policing training. If you have any questions, join the Discord server found in the description. We will be glad to help you. Till next time.